we're also working on different layers of evolvement of our autonomous drive. So you add in really more and more AI-based solutions into the equation.
Hello and welcome everyone to this special episode of the Auto Tech Show, recorded live from the show floor here at the IAA Transportation Show in Hanover, Germany. I'm your host, Mark Babin, and it's great to have you watching this episode. Thank you all so very much for being with me today. On the show today, we are taking a deep look into the role that autonomous vehicles play in modern transportation. We know the trend is rising with passenger cars, but we want to discover the broader picture, and helping us to do this is a giant name in the industry. As the Vice President and Head of Autonomous Solutions at Scania Group, Peter Hafmar is literally on the front line of innovation when it comes to autonomous solutions for the trucking and commercial sectors, with one of the largest names in the industry giving us the perfect insights to tackle our topic today. And with that, Peter, thank you so very much for being with me today. I know you have a packed schedule. I really appreciate your time, but the insights from the front line with one of the biggest names in the industry is something I'm very much looking forward to. But first and foremost, thank you for being with me.
Thank you, Mark. Very nice to be here. And it's a really nice show, so it's packed with people.
It is packed, and it's interesting the types of things we see around the show. How are you with, you've walked through maybe a little bit from where you guys are. What's your impression on what you're seeing technology-wise, company-wise?
I think, first of all, we will talk a lot about autonomy, and what's great here is that you have all these interfaces with so many people, and you need to stack up different partnerships to solve a lot of things. And that's what you have here. You have so many competent people at one place. So you have the opportunity to speak with many to solve your final problem, to deliver a solution to customers and so on.
Have you seen that then, like that cultural shift has happened, like universally, where maybe before a lot of people were more tentative to some changes and electrification and autonomy, that shift culturally has happened in a lot of companies when we look at what we see?
Yeah, definitely. Sustainability is something on mind for everyone,
yeah.
and we need to do that change. So, and we need to all to pitch in to solve our future for our kids.
Yeah, it's so important, and I think everyone's sort of drinking that juice now and they get it.
Yeah.
So I mentioned in that opening, you're on the front line when it comes to change with the trucking and commercial side with Scania Group. Can you share, without giving too much away, obviously you can't give away maybe what you're working on, but some of the latest tech innovations when it comes to autonomy that you're excited to see finally being rolled out?
I think we had a chat about this before we started,
yeah.
And I think a lot of people know the Gartner hype curve, which is a curve saying that when you start off a new technology, everyone believes that it's going to happen straight off. And that was with autonomy in 2014-15. And then you go up to a inflated expectation, and then it goes down again. And that's exactly what happened with autonomy. That we didn't have the right prerequisites to succeed in 2014 with compute power, with cost of sensors, the ability of sensors. Meanwhile, now we actually have all these things aligned, so we start to get all ducks in a row. So with the compute power we have at hand, and the sensors being much better than today, and also the price of sensors, that will take us to a situation where we actually can start to deliver an autonomous solution.
So what we expected maybe a few years ago has arrived, but then managing expectations with the public and with customers and with potential prospects, how do you manage those expectations when now you're sort of have all the pieces together?
We work with two parallel tracks. Of course, the interlink of technology is massive, but we work with autonomous solution for confined areas and mines, and public roads, and hub to hub, which is driving between two terminals, really. Okay,
so in those two areas, but there's different expectations in both of those.
Different
groups.
Expectations, and but we can build from one to the other. So starting off with mining, it's a confined area. We have control over that confined area. We won't get any people that are not supposed to be there. So by that we can learn a lot. We can understand how it operates, we can also inform that we're actually driving autonomous in that equation. Taking that knowledge and that information into the more public ODD, or where we can drive, then you can use that knowledge. And it's not more than going by an escalator or a lift. When we started with lift, people didn't want to go with the lift because they were worried about that.
That's an interesting comparison.
And it's the same thing with autonomy. And all things we do automated. It is a hurdle to get over. But now when I get into an autonomous truck, I'm not worried at all. I feel actually more safe.
I guess, and you have that unique perspective of seeing everything that goes into it. From a public perspective on the road, having autonomous vehicles, do you feel like everyone in the commercial space is sort of ready for that? Or is it still a step too far for them to fully buy it? Like, you feel safe in the vehicle, but would a fleet feel safe with thousands of vehicles on the road of their trucks?
I think it's still a learning curve on that. We're not driving enough autonomous in Europe. We have a little bit more complex situation when it comes to legislation in Europe versus in the US, where we drive quite a lot. And the customers are definitely on board, and a lot of them are very forward looking as well. Both when it comes for solving an issue that we can't get enough truck drivers. It's not that we will take truck drivers' job. It's actually a complement to be able to transport the goods that we need to be able to transport. And also seeing that the customers then understand that equation, but also embracing the technology to also move into a more sustainable transport solution.
So from your point of view then, the concept that the technology can further enable a business to do more with less is, you're not trying to supplement the driver, you're trying to aid in being able to do more with what they have.
Yeah, and I think it's a stepward approach as well. I mean, we have the ADAS solutions and the more advanced solutions that actually just help the driver, because it is, if you've driven a fully loaded truck, it's not easy.
No, I don't imagine.
And then having sensors and so on to help you being more safe on the road, that's great. But then also taking the next step, that you don't have to spend days or weeks out on the road. So those long stretches or those can be autonomous. Meanwhile, we do more shorter routes and so on with humans, so we can go to our families.
And I think that's a goal for everyone. And I guess this ultimately tackles those challenges of the driver fatigue issues and all of these things that plague the industry when it comes to these long distances. This sort of assists that and lets people maybe do where they can be more useful.
Yeah. And also feel more safe, be at home, and we are not, before we are fully autonomous everywhere. I mean, I'm not going to be living by then, so we don't have to have that discussion of we will take over with autonomy. That's
and we don't want it to.
No, definitely not. We don't want to have big lorries in the city centers going fully loaded with autonomous.
With no one inside.
So that before you have that, it's a long time.
You touched on the geographic differences with some of the stuff in the US, and maybe this is regulatory driven. Is regulation the biggest thing that drives differences in different geographies, or even within Europe, let's say within different areas of Europe alone? Because I think the US market is quite different regulation-wise. Does it drive the change that you guys do differently?
No, the technology is very similar. So it's not, we're building up the cybersecurity, the safety of the vehicle in the same way. Of course, you have different road legislations that you need to, I mean, you have a lot of, if you do an off-ramp in the US, you have a lot of off-ramps on the left side. Then you need to handle that in different way. And then you need to teach the computer a little bit different on how to do that. But in general, we're doing very similar. But why US is further? Because they have a different approach to legislation. And also, even if a lot of countries in Europe is doing a lot, I mean, both Germany and UK and Norway is doing quite a lot of progress when it comes to autonomous legislation. but it's seen as one country, not a European solution. And that is a problem for us, because then, first of all, we can just drive within that country, and we know all that goods are transported cross borders. And also we need to have approvals from different countries to do so. So by that, the legislation is probably the hinder to move in Europe in the long run. I don't say technology is fully there yet, but in the US it's rather technology. So when technology is ready, the industry and legislation is ready to go. So that's a big difference on the two markets.
When we look at the regulatory side, when you develop solutions and you're developing solutions for the future, now that I'm sure the stuff you're working on now will be stuff that hits the roads in 5-10 years, maybe longer. I know this can be quite a cycle. Do you build based on the regulations that you know are going to come, or do you help to drive that change by what you're developing?
Of course, it's a dialogue that this happen. It is groundbreaking what we're doing when it comes to actually having a computer driving a vehicle. So we need to work together with the legislators how to form that. But in bottom line, we don't develop anything that we believe is 100% secure. If it's not safe, we will not develop it, because we need to secure our product is much safer than we operate today to reduce accidents on the roads, because that's one of our main targets.
I was going to bring up safety because it is a big topic for a lot of people. The sustainability is a big topic, but road safety can't be ignored. When we look at the development of autonomy and the development of the vehicles themselves, because if there's no driver, then maybe there's different maintenance practices that have to be driven because of the way it's driven. Maybe it's more, the right foot of a driver determines a lot about the wear on that vehicle. If it's autonomous, that changes the whole life cycle of that vehicle. From a safety point of view, what are you guys actively doing to sort of make sure that's always at the forefront?
We have a big team working with safety, of course, and we always work with partners as well to have the best sensors, and we always look at how do we work with the computer in the best way to secure that we have a safe product. And in general, that's the baseline of everything we do. Safety, safety, safety. If we can't place out a safe product, we should not place it out there. And then after safety, that is the sustainability part, to be able to optimize our ability to deliver a product to our customers that can enhance their product delivery, and then reduce burden on the earth.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because safety has to be priority. I think especially when you go on the transportation side, I think the mining is an interesting aspect because it's in a confined area. Safety is still paramount, but it's not on a highway surrounded by families with other vehicles and everything. So when we look at the safety aspect and you launch autonomy in some aspect on the roadway, is there a response from the general public about their acceptance of it? Is that a voice you are concerned about or listen to, or are you just solely focused on just delivering the safest product you can do and everyone else will just accept?
Of course, it's a public voice that we need to listen to, and we need to have a dialogue. Our product is typically not sold to the public, but they interface with it. But most people, when I talk, because we drive autonomous in both Sweden and Germany and the US. Of course, we have a safety driver on board that overlook everything. But many people I talk to, if they drive the route we're driving, I say, you probably passed one of our cars. I say, what? Yeah, we passed our cars, because you don't realize that it's autonomous, because it's driving by itself and it's keeping steady pace within the lane in a very good way. So when it comes to trucking, you won't realize that much. So it's rather that question coming to the passenger car industry.
Yeah, that's very different.
Because it's very different, because then it's actually you. Are you ready to put yourself into a car driving itself?
And let go.
And we have a lot of things going around in the world in the taxi side, of course, both in the US and in China. And a lot of people using that solutions. So it's just a matter of hurdle to understand, are we ready to go into that vehicle as we were a long time ago ready to go into the elevator?
Yeah, I guess it's just that mental acceptance that the tech is there, the solutions do exist, and like you said, you've probably already passed something on the road without knowing it because you're not thinking about it. But there's a lot of thinking going on to make that happen, and that's the important thing. Looking to the next 5-10 years, and as I mentioned, I'm sure you're working on stuff that you can't say, and I won't ask that. Are there things that you're particularly excited, and maybe you can hint in a direction that the technology is developing when it comes to autonomy? Is it just developing what maybe already exists, developing that further, or is there a new element that you guys are kind of excited to be pioneering?
First of all, I'm super excited that we actually started sales of autonomous solutions in the mining industry.
Cool,
and that is we started that prior summer now. And
big milestone,
big milestone, and we're producing our autonomous vehicles off the line, delivering that into Australia, which is a massive step. And so that's one of our milestones we've been working for a long time. Then, of course, we're working on different technology outlooks. So we are not just working with the solution for mining, that's more simplistic in one sense, but we're also working on different layers of evolvement of our autonomous drive. So you add in really more and more AI-based solutions into the equation.
Yeah, I guess AI is an interesting aspect, how it plays into all of this as well.
So it's rather going into that step and going more simulation-based. You don't use as many vehicles on public roads. You actually do it in your
virtual
computer.
Testing.
Yeah. So
I was talking to I did an episode with Hankook Tires, and that exactly the thing came up when they were in the past when they would develop a tire. They would have to develop a prototype, put it on a car, do some runs, do some tracks, and then they'd get the data back and evolve. But now it can all be done in a simulator. And they get so much more information in real time, and the loop is much faster. I guess it's the same way in your industry with the vehicles.
Yeah, for sure. And we can also integrate much more with the customer and talk about what is the expectation from our customers and what do they see, and should we develop it towards, tweak it towards that direction or that direction, what types of tests should we do, so we can move in a faster way when we do it simulation based.
Yeah, and I guess that's an interesting influence because you develop a solution or you develop a product, but then the insights from customers based on how that further develops, you need to listen to the actual users of the vehicles. And then with the digital models, you can do that much more efficiently.
Yeah. And we can always talk about a lot of things on what we are doing, but in the end, it's always the customer. The customer always needs to come first. If you don't deliver a product or develop a product that is game for a customer, why should you do it? The customer is definitely the one you're doing everything for. And for us, it's going back in time, there was a lot of discussion of transport as a service and so on. Then you can move in the value chain. But for us, it's just continue to deliver a vehicle. Now we're enabled to deliver a driver into that vehicle, but we're delivering that to our customers we do today. So we are not doing any operational when it comes to transport and so on. We're delivering our product, which is the vehicle. We're now adding the driver into the equation as well.
Which is a big step.
Yeah, and the customer is still in charge of where to drive, how all the planning and everything. So
really
it's understanding. We need to understand the customer and what value you deliver to that customer.
Yeah, like anything, like any product or service at the end of the day. You're just doing a bigger version of that.
Yeah.
A big truck, that's which it's super cool. I love what you guys are doing. I stopped by the booth earlier. I think it's really cool, the technology, and I had no idea about the mining side. I think that's extraordinary. I'm going to look more into that just to see how that works and what's going on in Australia. But that's an interesting find.
Now we're really happy with the mining industry, and that's also a big step for the mining industry, because what we are enabling with the autonomous solution is actually the increasing speed of electrification into the mining industry, which will lead to a more sustainable mining industry,
which is huge.
So that's massive, and I'm really excited what's coming up in the coming month and years.
Well, we're definitely keeping a close eye on it, and congrats on the success. I think it's great, and great to connect with you at the event. But the insights have been fantastic, and it's exciting to see what you guys are doing as leading the way as a brand like yours should. So we really appreciate the time today. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Mark. Nice to be here.
And for everyone watching and listening, thank you very much for joining me on this very special episode. It's been great to have you. Hopefully you've learned a little bit. If you want to know more about what Scania is doing, head down to the podcast notes. I'll have some links there to check it out. Get in touch with me if you have any questions, and you never know where those conversations may go, but let's have them regardless. So we'll leave this episode there. A big thank you to Peter for joining me, and we'll see you on the next episode of the podcast very soon. Have a great day, everyone. See you soon.